Welcome into the Stokastic.com MMA live before locks. We're here to get ready for UFC Austin, which starts in 2 hours from now from Austin, Texas. Big cage tonight, so that's something we got to talk about. A 30-foot cage as opposed to a 25-foot cage. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. Talk about PrizePicks later on in the show. Talk about some of the props they have over there. While we did lose the fight, we'll talk about that in a moment. We'll talk about some of those props like over at PrizePicks. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, good afternoon. Of course, it was about an hour and a half ago we learned that Joe Lauzon has pulled out of this fight card. On his Instagram, he talked about the knee issue that he had, could not even walk. They worked on him all night, just could not put any weight on that knee. So his matchup against Don Cerrone is off this card. And man, this is a big effect for me in terms of how to develop lineups today, because that was a fight that to me I thought was pivotal in terms of GPPs.
Yeah, absolutely. It hurt a lot of my lineups and mainly my process as well, because as I spoke of on the strategy show, I was making a group. I didn't care who I got in my lineup, but I viewed that fight as a under 2.5, even under 1.5 type of fight. I did not expect it to go the distance. So the fact that it's off the card is a big dent into my lineups, because now I have to kind of, regroup, figure out which other fights I want to target. But yeah, it's unfortunate and it's just crazy, right? Like Cowboy pulls out, not known for pulling out of fights in the first one. Joe Lauzon pulls out, not known for pulling out of fights for this second time. I'm not confident that this matchup's ever going to happen. They just need to move on from it. And sometimes matchups like this that, the Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov, it just like, I don't know. The universe doesn't want it to happen, Jason. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to reprocess it and figure out which fights I want to prioritize.
Yeah, I will tell you, I was over on PrizePicks right before the show, and I was like, yep, every PrizePick play I have today had the under 9.5 fight times on Donald Cerrone. So once this show's over, I got to kind of redo and look at putting some new props together over there at PrizePicks. But yeah, it's obviously, I mean, you mentioned about it. It seems like it is our new Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Of course, now the new co-main event will be Kevin Holland taking on Tim Means. So, of course, you got any questions, line those up in the chat. You can line those up in Discord as well. Of course, if you do throw us a super chat, your question will go to the top of the queue. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. That truly does help us out a ton. Of course, if you're not subscribed to us right here on YouTube, do that as well. Hit that notification bell so you know when the show is live here on the channel. Of course, coming up right after us will be MLB Live Before Locks. Guys, get you ready for today's MLB slate. Speaking about MLB, if you're not a Stokastic Plus member, today's free premium data and tools are MLB ownership projections and UFC pro plays. Put in my pro plays there the other day, so you can always check that out over at Stokastic.com. Of course, as I mentioned, got any questions, line those up in the chat. Obviously, I was doing some office hours earlier, and kind of a lot of the typical questions I get every week, and thinking about the fights to prioritize with GPPs, and I feel like that's even a bigger question now because the co-main event was going to be one of those of when it was Cerrone and Lauzon. I still think the main event to me is a priority on both sides. I do want to get there, but like there's two fights that I think are kind of intriguing to me, Pete, when it comes to GPPs, more particularly on DraftKings as opposed to FanDuel. And to me, it's the Duraev and Buckley fight, the potential takedown upside of Duraev, but also knockout potential with Joaquin Buckley. And then I got to go down the female matchup of Jasmine and Silva. Jasmine, obviously, she's got that takedown upside. Yeah,
so I had to go down my priority list and figure out which fight I view as a GPP must. And now that the Lauzon and Cowboy fight is off, the fight that's popping in some of my projections and on everything that I'm creating is the Julian Marquez Gregory Rodriguez fight. Like that seems like a priority for me. We know that Gregory Rodriguez is talented in all areas of the fight. Excellent grappler, dominant wrestler as well. Can get you, can take your back, put you in a very bad spot there, and can take advantage of certain situations, incorporating ground pound, looking to submit you. And Julian Marquez can crack on the feet, and Gregory Rodriguez has been rocked in almost every single UFC fight. So it's seems like a volatile matchup with tons of points to be had. I worry about Marquez getting controlled on the mat, similar to how he was against Maki Pitolo. So he really needs to make Gregory Rodriguez pay for those takedown attempts or pay for the striking exchanges. So to me, if I'm looking at the slate, that becomes the priority for me to have that within my lineups. I will also follow that up with the Albert Duraev Joaquin Buckley fight. So I made a larger group now that I don't have such a centralized focus on the Lozon Cowboy fight. The Duraev and Buckley fight, as you mentioned, takedown upside for Duraev, submission upside as well, even ground and pound against the Joaquin Buckley, who has, been shown to be chinny in the past, despite being a phenomenal offensive striker. On the flip side, Duraev did not necessarily look the best in his UFC debut, and that cardio is a big question mark. And I think the longer this fight goes, the more that it starts to work in Buckley's favor. Mm-hmm. And the third fight, I know that's kind of like three fights that I'm focusing on. I'm a little different than you. I don't view the main event as a priority, just because I feel like it might be like a point fight back and forth, very calculated striking affair, would be the Tim Means Kevin Holland fight. So those three fights, for me, that's the ones that I am prioritizing for this card. Now that we're off, we don't have that co-main event, man, and it's a hurting, as I said. But I think you can make a larger group and get to at least 1 to 2 of those fights that I spoke of.
Another note we should throw out there about the weigh-ins yesterday. Tony Kelly did miss weight by 1.5 pounds. Adrian Yanez, he's going to get a portion of that person. For Tony Kelly, if this thing ends up being a fight of the night, it's going to cost him $50,000. Like Adrian Yanez, like you always want to go out there and have the fight night, and because you can collect that $100,000 there. Watching the stare down these two guys had, one of the concerns I did wonder is Adrian Yanez fighting emotional? And that can be a good, but it can be a bad thing too.
Yeah. So, I mean, emotions can cloud your judgment and can also make you go out there and tax your gas tank, where you try to hunt for the finish early a little bit more so than you normally do. And you're kind of fighting out of character because you're letting your emotions dictate your response. I still feel like Yanez is such a calculated fighter in general that, like, I like him with a little chip on his shoulder. I mean, he has swag to begin with, but he can counter really well. And I think Tony Kelly is going to be very careful with every combination that he throws. Kelly can strike. He's not a bad striker at all, but I really feel like we might see Yanez butcher him on the feet, and Kelly's going to be searching for that takedown to try to just close the gap and stop the offensive onslaught that Yanez is going to hit him with. Now, that's the X factor we don't know, right? Like, anybody can go out there and overexert themselves in round 1. Next thing you know, round 2, round 3, they're a sitting duck for their opponents to come back into the fight. So if you did not like what you saw on the weigh-in, and you like Tony Kelly from a durability standpoint, because most people view him as a durable fighter, then perhaps as the fight goes on, he could start working his way back into this one. But for me, it's a Yanez play. I just like Yanez a lot today.
Yeah, and someone mentioned in chat that Kelly is a huge step up for Yanez.
I do not agree with that at all.
I mean, like, I would sit there and say that you want to say that. I can also say the same thing for Tony Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think like it's a huge step up for either one of them. I think like Tony Kelly, like going up there against a guy who's one of the best strikers in the division, one of the best boxers in the UFC. Like, yeah, it's Yanez is the superior fighter here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of these things of like, do you think anyone that Tony Kelly has fought against is better than Davey Grant?
No, I don't at all.
It's Randy Costa, Ali Alkazi, Kai Kamaka III, Andy Bessette, Kevin Aguilar, Levi Moles. I mean, it's just one of these things of like, to me, my general thought is the UFC made this matchup because they want Yanez to win so they can cut Tony Kelly and they can get out of the Tony Kelly business.
Yeah, you want to talk that mess and you want to say some stuff that's completely inappropriate and, just target a group of, it's just such an idiotic thing for Kelly to do. And then he's embracing the heel, which some fighters are allowed to within a promotion, but the UFC kind of wants you to either be a ticket seller, a phenomenal talent, or the UFC just likes you in general, kind of like a Colby Covington. Like, he could do whatever he wants because he's so skilled and he has a following and whatnot. But Tony Kelly, he's probably going to get cut if he loses tonight. And I can't wait because I hope he does.
Mentioned this comment over Discord from Cleveland 27 saying Derive or Buckley for a GPP. I mean,
Your
look,
single
it's
entry. Yikes.
I mean, look, it's Derive has that takedown upside, but like you pointed out, it's a big concern of mine is what happens if we get to the third round. Does Derive have the cardio there to potentially, continue that game plan in the first and second round? That's my concern with him. Like, to me, I would say from the betting side, I think Joaquin Buckley could be a very good live betting option today. I don't look, and I will tell you this. I love the prop of Derive on takedowns over on PrizePicks. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but like, to me, that question to me is a concern. Now I will say this in terms of a leverage play, I do like getting to Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, I don't really understand the hate towards Joaquin Buckley. I mean, I understand that Derive is on the regional scene a very, very strong wrestler and grappler, but I thought that he laid an egg in his UFC debut against Roman Kopylov, who looked improved from what we saw within the UFC, but landing only 1 of 9 takedowns is something a little odd, especially for being so dominant on the regional scene, having 5 minutes of control, that gas tank looking horrific at times. And it's like, man, this guy could be a fade in the future. It's just, does Joaquin Buckley exploit the holes in his game? I think Joaquin Buckley hits really, really hard, as evidenced by his KOs, but he has been knocked out in the past against Kevin Holland, and he has been knocked out against Alessio Di Chirico. So ground and pound is on the table for Derive. That's why I'm viewing this fight as a priority. I want to get to it. But if you want to say straight up, you're playing single entry, I'm going to pick the value in Joaquin Buckley, because I feel like the fight's a lot closer than what the odds reflect.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think that would concern you about Buckley is, I mean, look, he's coming off a fight where he had 5 takedowns. I don't see him going the takedown route in this one. I think it's going to be a fight that he wants to keep on the feet. But the fact is, if Joaquin Buckley cannot knock him out, the question is the path being optimal, because he's not a volume puncher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but very rarely are you going to be a volume puncher and a power puncher. And from what I see, at least Joaquin Buckley throws combinations, as you were upset with Jeremy Stevens about from last night's performance. Like, dude, throw some combinations. Stop headhunting and throwing solo shots. Like, Joaquin Buckley will put 3, 4, 5 punches together, and if the first couple don't land, that's fine. That's usually how it is. It's the ones at the latter part of the combination that land and do the damage, because your opponent doesn't see it coming. So I like Joaquin Buckley striking pretty. I really like him here, truthfully, like as one of the best underdogs on the slate now that Lozon's off.
Yeah, bro, I'm watching that fight last night, and I'm like, bro, you got to knock this dude out in the first or second round to get into the playoffs. And then I'm like, his corner had to be yelling, combinations. Of course, we couldn't hear over the fake crowd noise they had on that broadcast.
Yeah, a little crazy PFL stuff, but I think Jeremy Stevens looks horrible lately. Like that fighter that he went up against, tough kid. A lot of people, the live odds had Jeremy Stevens losing going to the decision. So I think he was like plus 200, plus 240 as the final seconds were ticking off the clock. So he got the split decision, but man, I'll tell you what, Stevens did not look good.
Bro, there was a referee in like the second fight of the night. Let's just say he needs to go to Rogers Mixed Martial Arts Academy to lose some weight. Like, bro, dude has to be 300 pounds, and he just can't move around. And then like he's literally like Hamlet is a guy who's just getting butchered. Oh. And I'm like, is he trying to get this dude killed? Like, dude is out on his feet. You can see the eyes roll back, and I'm like, what the hell is this referee doing? And then the main event, God knows how Clay Collar got screwed on that one. I
didn't watch the main event, but I'll tell you what, that referee stoppage in the Hamlet one was a little delayed. And I don't necessarily know if it was like a physical fitness thing or if it was just an education type of thing. We're seeing some people, in some refs and some judges that aren't as educated as they need to be. And, that's why I like a lot of the refs and judges up here in New England, truthfully. My boy, Brian Miner, one of the best in the business. I like Jason Herzog. He's fantastic. It's like, I don't know, man. They just need to be held to a standard and constantly reevaluated.
Jorge, I appreciate you in the super chat. He says, who would you avoid / fade or go super low owned on in DK for the slate? And who are your top 3 highest owned for the slate? And would you include fighters from the same fight? Okay, I'll mention the very last thing.
Yeah.
In cash, I would not mind stacking the main event because I do think the fight's going 25 minutes. GPPs, I would not take anyone in the same fight.
Okay. Do you remember last weekend, the Yuri Prochazka fight? That, oddly enough, Yuri and Glover Teixeira, stacking that fight where everybody thought that it was going to be ended within the first 3 rounds or whatever. It ended up being a war, back and forth war. If you stack that fight, you would have been optimal just because of the salaries. And they both broke 100 points. It was insane. I can see, and I do say that stacking the main event is viable. It's just Kattar throws with high volume and he's selective, whereas Emmett throws with more power, but he can match some volume and has some takedown upside as well. So I think it's going to go the distance. Some people think that Kattar can knock out Josh Emmett early. And if you feel like you like Josh Emmett, obviously you're not going to stack. But I would actually say that it's viable this week. Nothing that I would truly recommend. So if, say, you're doing 20 lineups, I probably wouldn't put it in more than 2 of them. But man, goodness gracious.
It's when it comes to avoid / fade or super low owned on in DraftKings. Now, in terms of super low owned, I would say the Ricardo Chavez fight would be one that I'm low on. The Paulo and Maria would be another one that would be low owned for me.
Yeah, so I naturally am just low on Ricardo Hamosh this week. I just think the odds are wrong, and I also don't view him with so much upside in comparison to some of the other top end options. As far as like fights to avoid, tell me if I'm crazy, but I feel like that Roman Dolidze Kyle Dawkins one is one that I'm okay getting away from, just because they might cancel each other out, and it might be a grappling exchange and kind of like a back and forth fight. I foresee it going the distance. So for most of my lineups, I'm pretty sure I avoided that fight, and I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm hoping that Kyle Dawkins just edges him out throughout each round.
I would say also in terms of fighters that I'm going to be low owned on in terms of GPPs, Court McGee would be someone that I'd be low on. I think in that fight, I know there was a comment about Wells from the strategy show. I mean, look, it's to me in terms of GPPs, if you're going to roster that fight, I think it's take Jeremiah Wells or pass, just because I just don't see Court McGee being optimal even at that price point. With Wells, the one concern I do have for him is if the fight makes it on, past 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, but he's been 25 minutes in the past. So like that's, for CES, he's been 25 minutes.
But look at the pace he's having in these UFC fights. I don't think that pace is sustainable for 15 minutes.
I mean, I'm not sure that Court McGee can take some of the power shots at this day and age from Jeremiah Wells. It's a fine rebuttal on your end that it seems like he wouldn't be able to keep that pace, especially against a big guy that's going to test him in all areas. I personally like Jeremiah Wells a lot. And if people are a little hesitant, that's okay. People were hesitant about my boy Jack Della Maddalena last week, and he came through for us. So for me, I'm going to take a shot on a guy who's 8,000 in a fight where I actually view him as the favorite.
I mean, look, and you want to talk about massive step up in competition. This is a massive step up in competition from Blood Diamond to Court McGee.
Yeah, absolutely. You're correct. You are correct. It's just you go through and if Court McGee goes out there and wrestles, I like his chances. If he goes out there and strikes with Jeremiah Wells, as he has done in the past, shoots a couple takedown attempts, gets stuffed, and then is like forced to kickbox, he will be lulled into a kickboxing match. Like, oh, okay, I guess we're kickboxing here. And he had the easiest path to victory against Carlos Condit, take him down, take him to Takedown City. And he never attempted it. And he got knocked down. I'm telling you, I think Jeremiah Wells cracks him and hurts him and knocks him out.
In terms of my top owned fighters, just kind of looking at the crunches that I have,
Mhm.
Calvin Kattar by far was my number one fighter
Really?
on this card. Yeah.
Okay. The salary, I mean, it's fine. And I think that's why, like, it's tough to get away from because 5 rounds. And if you favor him in a matchup, why would you avoid it? You think he
You
has
know,
a 100-point ceiling? I mean, you think he can get
yeah.
120 tonight?
Yeah, I think you can.
Really?
Just
Okay.
because of that volume. I mean, I just think you could see a massive amount of volume. And then after that, like, it's kind of a bunch of fires are all kind of grouped together. Holland, Duraev, Dawkins,
Mhm.
Stamen, Hawes, Wells, they're all kind of up there for me. Because I can look at it, I like Court McGee to win the fight, but Jeremiah Wells has definitely GPP upside. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
It's like I look at someone like, I mean, the Rodriguez Marquez fight, that's got GPP upside written all over it. It's just the question is, I don't have a lot of faith in either guy, but I would say I have more faith in Gregor Rodriguez and Julian Marquez.
Yeah. I love that fight for GPPs. Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of people in here right now, Jason. We appreciate you guys like crazy. Almost 300 of you guys. If you have any questions, shoot them into chat. We will gladly answer them for you. If you can also hit that like button, get us over 100 likes. It really helps us out, helps the channel out a lot.
Of course, another great way to show your support is by signing up for a Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass. You can get that right now by heading over to stokastic.com. And of course, if you're a new user, we have a hell of a deal going on for you right now, as you can get 50% off your first month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And all you got to do is click that link in the video description below, or use the promo code MMALBL, all caps, one word, MMALBL, for 50% off your first month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Again, this is for new users only. And look, when you hit that promo code, that lets the people know about you heard about here on the show, and appreciate the people that took advantage of that promo code last week. Got informed that some people hit that promo code, so do appreciate that. Of course, all the great tools and content we have over for you. That top fire tool, that's literally, there's one spreadsheet that is in front of me right now. It is that top fire tool, checking out the various things I'm looking at on that top fire tool. So be sure to check out everything we have going on over there. Great deal for new users going on right now. 50% off your first month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Corey, appreciate.
Corey, you stop it right now, please. I hope not, for my sake over here.
Oh, yeah, Corey, I hope you're dead wrong. I hope you're dead wrong, because if you're right, my day's done. He goes, I believe someone breaks the slate with a sub on Jasmine, and asking your thoughts on Emmett knocking out Kattar. I'm playing both in one lineup on DraftKings. Man. I mean, look, if Josh Emmett is going to win, I do believe by knockout. I just don't think he gets the job done. I mean, look, he's a power puncher. I just think that give me the more technical striker.
Yeah, so Josh Emmett is fine to get to. I got to him because even in a loss, if it goes 25 minutes, you could have a losing fighter in the optimal lineup, no problem at all. And we have seen Kattar get wobbled. He hasn't been finished, but he's been hurt a lot. And that Max Holloway fight is definitely, that damage is still there. He's healed and allowed himself to take some time off, which was great. Very, very smart for his team to do so. I do think a power puncher like that could possibly show signs of that damage again. As far as the Jasmine call, Corey, that's what I'm hoping you're wrong about. So Corey Randall saying, I believe Silva breaks the slate with a sub on Jasmine Jasudavicius. I hope not, because from everything I saw on Silva, I don't think that she's at this level, truthfully. She may be intense at the weigh-ins. I don't think that she's going to be able to stuff a takedown from Jasmine. She almost accepts the position because she likes to play jiu-jitsu on her back. Lots of armbar finishes. So a submission isn't out of the question. Armbar from guard is possible. It's just the top pressure and the fight IQ from Jasmine Jasudavicius, in my opinion, is going to be way, way too much. And the ground and pound, I think, will break away any of the submission attempts. So I think Jasmine gets her out of there and breaks the slate. So I think Jasmine dominates her and has one of the highest totals on the entire slate. And that's how I made a lot of my lineups. So if that happens, Corey, and Silva gets a submission, I'm not going to have a good day. And that's okay. I'm planting my flag on Jasmine Jasudavicius.
Here's the fighter that concerns me in a way, concerns me not so much in another way, and that's Cody Stamen. Most expensive salary on DraftKings today, also on FanDuel, $9,500 on DraftKings, $23 on FanDuel. He's taking on Eddie Wineland. Eddie, longtime vet of this sport, but we've seen the chin issues there. But, when I think of Cody Stamann, I'm thinking of the wrestling ability, the size advantage that he's going to have in this fight. And to me, it's about whether or not he can pay off that price. Obviously on DraftKings, maybe if he goes down takedown route, racks up control time. FanDuel obviously is a little bit of a different story over there. The price on FanDuel, I will tell you, scares me a little bit, just in terms of how he wins a fight. But my thing is that price tag is Cody Stamann optimal today.
So if people are box score watching, as casuals will be box score watching, they're going to see the price tag on Cody Stamann at 9,500 and say, holy moly, he has to do a lot to pay that off. Has he ever broke 100 points? Okay, well, he broke 100 points in his UFC debut against Terrion Ware, where he scored 125 points, but that was largely due to him landing 8 of 12 takedown attempts, Jason. So unless he goes out there with a takedown city approach, it's like, okay, he either needs a first or second round finish and a couple takedowns to do so. The closest fight after that was his second fight in the UFC against Tom Duquesnoy, where he scored 84.47 points in a split decision. Now, the defensive deficiencies of Eddie Wineland could boost Cody Stamann's total, especially given the circumstances where this is a make or break situation for him, right? Like his job's on the line. He has been awful in his past 3, losing to Jimmy Rivera, Merab Dvalishvili, Said Nurmagomedov. Guess what? All 3 of those guys, monsters. Eddie Wineland in 2022, still skilled on the feet, not a monster though. He will get rocked on the feet and he could get taken down numerous times, but that takedown defense has been pretty solid throughout. So I think a first round knockout is probably Cody Stamann's path to 100 points. I got to him a little bit, but I will tell you that a lot of people are going to have that standoffish type of view. Despite being one of the biggest favorites on the slate, he's going relatively under-owned where his odds should be a lot higher.
I mean, obviously, people are going to look at that last fight with John Castaneda knocking out Eddie Wineland. I mean, my thought is, and you bring up the point of the back is against the wall for Cody Stamann. He has to win tonight, or otherwise his days in the UFC are over. He has not scored a stoppage victory inside the UFC. I do wonder because of, look, you still have to be concerned about the hands of Eddie Wineland. I mean, that's what Eddie Wineland does. So I do wonder, could potentially he go with a safer route and just try to go down, go to the takedown route and hold Eddie Wineland down. But look, fact is Eddie Wineland has been knocked out in his last 2 fights in the first round.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. If he goes out there with a safe approach, a win, just a blanket win over Eddie Wineland, Jason, I don't think that's enough. Like in the UFC's eyes, like, dude, like we're tossing you a softball right now. This is a layup. Like you should be going out there. For as skilled as Cody Stamann is, a lot of people thought that he'd be breaking into the top 5, contending for a title eventually. I think that he needs to go out there and have a monster performance. So this price range is usually a no-brainer. Just play it. People might be getting a little too cute today. I'm going to get to Cody Stamann, but that salary, you have to find some underdogs to make it work.
The Kevin Holland ownership to me is an interesting one.
Well, let me pull it up.
Because I don't think I want to get that much Kevin Holland. I think this fight goes the distance.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. So I kind of made a case for Tim Means being durable outside of that Nico Price defeat, testing Kevin Holland in the takedown department. That's the issue with Kevin Holland, right? Like he can knock you out in any second of the fight, but you could have his back for 8 of the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, cause he just plays around too much. So that's a large ownership. And compared to some of the 9,000 options, it's like a lot of people like that upper 8 range Kevin Holland today. So I'm getting to him, Jason, but I agree with you. It's like, I think Tim Means is pretty damn tough.
Jorge's got a follow-up super chat. He says, follow-up questions before saying thanks for the content information provided for DraftKings GPP. who are your top 3 OTD fighters, and any suggestions for 150 lineup construction on DraftKings GPP? Thanks again. In terms of lineup construction, to me, I'm looking at two things. I'm looking, and this is kind of just a general thing for me, is who's got the takedown upside? Who has that ability to potentially just land multiple takedowns, rack up control time, rack up, total strikes landed, and then who are those fighters underneath 8K that have upside of first or second round finish? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, Jorge, thank you for your support. We really appreciate you, and happy that we have some MMA fans tuning into this show, which is great. Top 3. I'm guessing he means inside the distance fighters. That's basically what I'm guessing he's trying to say right there.
Yeah, I was first time I was like, okay, OTD. What am I? Am I just having a brain freeze here? Like,
yeah, no, I'm getting the I and the O on the keyboard are right next to each other. So that's what I'm guessing. So for me, and I could be wrong, I'm saying Jasmine Jasdavicius. That's my one fighter where like 9,000. A lot of people a little afraid, don't want to get to her because it's women's MMA, but she has both. She has takedown upside, ground and pound finish, submission finish, or just a dominant decision, and Matt returning her. So I really like her today, as I've already talked about. As far as another fighter inside the distance, Jeremiah Wells, might be my second one. He really might be. And I know you disagree with me on that.
There's a couple of things that stick out to me. Like, I look at the Hawes win fight in GPPs as probably a fight that you really have to be looking at, because obviously Deron Wynn, we know, has the wrestling upside at a price point of 7,200. Really is intriguing. Obviously Phil Hawes, and also I think the fact that the longer that fight goes on, the more it does favor Deron Wynn, but Phil Hawes has first round upside to win via knockout. I think that's a fight to me to look at in terms of inside the distance. Rodriguez and Marquez, I think, is another one inside the distance that sticks out to me. Yeah.
So the Rodriguez and Marquez fight, that's the fight I believe is going to be into the optimal lineup. And I'm okay with getting to either side, truthfully, just because there's volatility surrounding it. So, we appreciate your support, and Jorge, and, for 150 lineups, make sure you get into some Chavez, man. I think Chavez is going completely disrespected today, and I think it's a close fight. I really think it's a close fight. I don't necessarily understand. I'll tell you what, from the ownership, I'm okay with getting to it.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I look at some plays where I look at and say, I think that the fighters are going under-owned, I look at a guy like Joaquin Buckley, upside. If, now look, he very well could just get dominated on the ground, held there, and derived, just racks up a ton of points. But I think in terms of leverage plays, Julian Marquez, I think, is another guy to look at. I'm not, the Yanez Kelly fight, I think it's going to last longer than people think. It's like someone asked us on Twitter earlier today of whether or not we like the under over on significant strikes for Adrian Yanez, and it was 69.5. And, if you kind of look at Adrian Yanez, when the fight goes 3 rounds, he's going to be kind of around that number. So I know someone asked about Gloria DePaula. I just don't know if she pays off that price point, Pete.
I mean, there's takedowns there. It's just the skill set of Gloria DePaula against Maria Oliveira. They're close. Gloria, DePaula's better everywhere, but I don't think that Gloria DePaula is all that great. So, super low level fight, a decision win for Maria Oliveira wouldn't completely shock me, but I'm suspecting Gloria DePaula is going to have her way with her on the feet, using her dominant boxing. And despite them both being strikers, I think that DePaula has the better grappling of the two. So it's just the price point. I would much rather get to Jasmine Jasdavicius today, and instead of having Gloria DePaula in my lineup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the massive takedown upside there is for Jasmine. Someone mentioned about Natalia Silva. One of the things I will mention about her in terms of when you look at her, what she's been able to do on the regional scene outside of the Maria Rodriguez fight when she was 20 years old back in 2017, when she lost by decision, it's low level competition. I mean, it's a massive step up in competition.
Yeah, really low level competition. Doesn't defend a takedown properly. I'm saying like elementary things. No whizzer, no fighting for underhooks, no butt scooting to the cage, no nothing, just jujitsu off of her back. And that's a recipe for disaster against a fighter in Jasmine, who is so much bigger, stronger, and already competed at this level. So I know that the record's flashy and the finishes are flashy, and armbar from guard happens and ruins slates from time to time. I just don't think it happens today.
Yeah, you can't play jiu-jitsu off your back and think you're going to win rounds in the sport. Corey, appreciate you with the super chat. It goes Buckley and Stamen or Duraev and Rodriguez on DraftKings.
I like that. I'm going to go with the first one. I think they're close, but I'm going to go with the first one. Mainly because of the ownership on Stamen. I don't think that he's getting enough.
Oh man.
Good question, Corey.
I think I would go Duraev and Rodriguez.
Okay.
Just because
for both?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of, okay, we got the finishing upside with Rodriguez. Obviously, finishing side on Buckley and Stamen, both sides that there's finishing upside. The thing about Duraev, though, is he could rack up some points if he's able to utilize a grappling base against Buckley.
It's just over 15 minutes. Can he keep that up?
No.
I tell you, in his debut, he looked shot, man. And Joaquin Buckley, from the fighter that I knew fighting on the same card as me in Bellator, he was taking people down left and right. So his offensive takedowns are great. And then this knockout artist that he's kind of transformed into, something we never saw coming. So I know that he can wrestle. It's just defensively, Abdul Razak Al Hassan took him down in the third round in a competitive fight. So naturally, people are going to see Duraev against Joaquin Buckley and say, if Al Hassan had success, you don't think Duraev's going to have success? And it just comes down to who has the better cardio in this situation. And I'm going to be leaning in Joaquin Buckley's favor for cardio.
Now, when it comes to the takedowns for Albert Duraev, that is one of the props I like over at our sponsor, PrizePicks. Of course, you go to prizepicks.com or download their app in the App Store. Be sure when you sign up, use that promo code OSMO, as they've got instant first match deposit of up to $100. Of course, you got to use that promo code OSMO. Let them know that you heard about them here over at the MMA Live Before Lock show. And of course, as I look over those prop bets, as I go over to that takedowns tab, the first two things that stick out to me is the number on Jasmine, 1.5, and also Duraev's got a 1.5 takedowns. I like the over on both of those, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. And I think it's interesting to get to. The Jasmine 2 takedowns, I think, is free money. I've already said a million times.
Yeah, I would say on Fight Time, I mentioned about the Adrian Yanez Fight Time prop on Thursday. That was at 10 minutes. It's now at 12.5, which I still like the over, but the under, man, you know, if you do think a finish is coming in that one, you do kind of look at the under over in that one. The one that I kept I'm fighting about is the Cody Stamen significant strikes of 60.5. I think that's an underplay.
I think it's an underplay too.
Just because of if he goes the takedown route, then it's not going to be significant strikes.
Right, exactly. And for the Yanez play, right? Like if you're playing over 12.5 on PrizePicks, you have to apply the same logic on DraftKings. You're probably not getting to Adrian Yanez at 9,400 all that much if you think it's going over 12.5 minutes. Like unless he throws 400 strikes or something and has multiple knockdowns, he's generally not paid off if it goes long. So in a decision win over Davey Grant, 70 points. And even in a third round knockout against Gustavo Lopez, only scored 81. So figure out how you're thinking these fights are going to go and apply them for both websites. Yeah,
I'm just looking over PrizePicks and some of I've got 2 5 pick plays. Of course, both of them have Jeremy Stevens under 10 minutes fight time. So now I'm just trying to get 4 or 5 to double my money there. But I will tell you that I did just put one in there for Duraev over 1.5 takedowns, Jasmine over 1.5 takedowns, and under 60.5 significant strikes for Cody Stamen.
I like it, Jason. Jason's the
Yeah.
prize picks god over there. So when
You got to find it. I would tell you, man. I would tell you, I was nailing those NBA ones. That's why, like, I was hoping the Suns were going to win on Thursday, just because I got another NBA game on Sunday. But well, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. But yeah. By the way, yeah. And then I always check out the stuff that Eric puts up there, PrizePicks for MLB. So be sure to check out everything we have for PrizePicks plays over there. Of course, be sure to use that promo code OSMO as they'll match your first deposit up to $100. And I will tell you, when they put those PFL props up next week, you got to go look at the PFL standings and start looking at see who needs a first round finish. And then that can kind of help you out in the fight time prop. Is that something that I took advantage of last night over there as well? Of course, if you got any questions, line those up in the chat. Also in Discord, mention the Discord questions. Says, how do you feel about Kattar versus Emmett? Fight goes a distance minus 135. I like that.
I like that as well. So that's why, like, I'm not prioritizing the main event, but a high striking affair for Kattar's price tag could still make him optimal.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at some prop bets that I think are intriguing. Joaquin Buckley wins in round 3, 17-1. That's an intriguing prop bet to me.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one that I saw. Was it the Yanez via decision? Plus 175.
Okay.
So you can kind of get away from that minus 300 price tag on the money line.
Yeah.
And to save yourself a little bit there.
So, okay, Jason, we talk about it all the time. Who the heck are we not talking about? What fight are we not talking about? We can kind of touch on this real quick. Thoughts on Roman Dolidze as an underdog? I mean, he had success in the takedown department against Laureano Staropoli, lost to Trevin Giles. And I view Kyle Dawkins. I'm going to say Brendan Allen. I view Kyle Dawkins in a higher regard than Trevin Giles. So I think Dawkins can nullify Dolidze's attacks and his attempts. It's just a leg locker, right? Like, leg lockers scare me for DraftKings slates. Like, one submission attempt and it's a wrap. So
I feel like that fight's going to play on the feet.
I mean, it could. I think it could be kind of like them muscling each other back and forth on the cage.
I mean, I overall, I do favor Dawkins in that one. I think the Demir is I think one of the fighters we're not talking about.
Okay, so Demir against Kudaladzé. The price tag on Kudaladzé is awesome. He needs to keep it on the feet and bury Demir with some kicks. We did see Demir get rocked against Rafael Alves. So despite being a fantastic fighter in Demir, he needs takedowns. Truthfully, if I don't think that his boxing approach is going to be so dominant as it usually is. He's going to need to get takedowns, and it's a fighter I'm a little light on today. So perhaps you're correct with that takedown city approach.
Michael, appreciate you with the super chat. Says favorite pay up and favorite cheap play on FanDuel for a single entry. Now, looking at some of the cheap plays that I think, and I guess this also consider, what do you consider a cheap play? So let's just say you consider cheap play $14 and under. Mm-hmm. Joaquin Buckley to me is interesting.
His style works for FanDuel too.
In terms of a pay up option over on FanDuel. See, the problem is, like, with the Jasmine, if she just goes completely with a takedown route, it's just more favorable to the DraftKings scoring system than it is to the FanDuel scoring system. I think a pay up option I'd probably be looking at with upside would probably be Phil Hawes.
Okay.
I think the other ones would be Gregory Rodriguez would be my other one.
So if Jasmine goes out there and waxes her and gets her out of there in 2 rounds, despite takedowns not being so prolific on FanDuel, I feel like she could still be in a strong spot, being priced at only 18. But Jason's absolutely correct by saying, she's a priority play on DraftKings, given her upside with the takedowns and control time and all of that. So you want to find fighters that can find a knockout on FanDuel or have high striking upside. Kattar at 21's interesting, but Stamen, right? He hits hard and has great combinations going up against a guy who has been knocked out plenty of times and has solid takedown defense. Perhaps Stamen's a strong pay up spot at 23. It's just if he doesn't find the finish, he's not paying off at that spot for you at all.
Stamen may not be a bad leverage play when it comes to MVP.
That's what I mean. I think it's like nobody's going to get to that. And
yeah, I mean, yeah,
you think he's knocking him out, Jason?
I wonder if it's a takedown and ground and pound.
It's still a knockout though.
Yeah. And obviously on FanDuel, you're looking for those first round finishes. Kind of get some of these questions that we haven't got to that over here in the YouTube chat here. And by the way, if you're just joining the show, Joe Lazone versus Donald Cerrone is no longer a part of this fight card. A knee injury for Joe Lazone has pulled him out of this fight card. Matt says, if you think the main event goes 5 rounds, you feel about stacking it in cash on DraftKings. I have no problem stacking it in cash, not in GPP.
Yep, I'm okay with it.
Let's see here.
This guy Tony Kelly's getting a ton of ownership, and I'm not really understanding that.
Best cash place under 8,800. So that would take Calvin Kattar out of the mix.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good question, Pete.
It's a very good question.
Like trying to label out because like to me, like there's a lot of fights on this card that I can just see going either way. Like we've talked so much about Derive and Buckley, how that one could go down. Rodriguez Marquez, we talked about that. I mean, Jeremiah Wells has so much upside for GPPs.
It's got to be Wells for me. It's not an easy fight, but
no, I mean,
volatility under 8,800. That's a great question.
Yeah. Win is low owned and seems to have gotten way better. I could see Hawes being laid on. The one thing about Deron Wynn, he does cut a lot of weight. Apparently, he walks around at about 213 pounds. So that's why he was the last guy on the scale yesterday. Obviously, takedown upside there. But he is a smaller stature in terms of height wise for this division.
I'll tell you something that made a lot of people might not even be considering is anybody knocking out Phil Hawes in rounds 2 and rounds 3 when he's gassed. Hands are low, suspecting a takedown, wobbled all the time. You don't think of Deron Wynn as a power guy, but he beat the brakes off of Eric Spicely, who's not even the same type of fighter that Phil Hawes is. But still, at least you know that he can throw combinations. And if you have your opponent guessing takedowns are coming, you kind of can play with him a little bit. So Deron Wynn has some sneaky upside given his ownership, and I'm getting to him in some of my lineups.
Better DK captain, Calvin Kattar or Kevin Holland? That's a Kattar one for me. And it's because of the 5 rounds.
That's a Kevin Holland one for me.
Buckley or Marquez?
Buckley.
Yeah, I would go Buckley there too. Let's see here.
Well, guys, we need 6 more likes to get us to 100 likes. Please do so. We appreciate it.
Sean says, agree with Pete. McGee gets dropped and finished.
I'm saying that's what happens, Jason.
Well, by the way, Court McGee's only been finished one time in the UFC.
Yeah, but
death, taxes, and Court McGee goes to decision.
10 push-ups. Jeremiah Wells, you got Court McGee. Okay, there we go.
Court McGee has been knocked out one time in his career. That was by Santiago Ponzinibbio back in 2016. Prior to it's decisions written all over his record. I mean, look, Jeremiah Wells has knockout possibilities, no question about it. But the fact is, Court McGee has shown to be a guy who can weather that storm. And don't slip like he did against Blood Diamond, bro.
Oh, I know, you're right.
This ain't Blood Diamond standing across the cage from you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I remember that fight happened. I was like, oh crap, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah. That's the only way he was going to lose that fight, slipping.
Yeah. See here. Just try to get some questions maybe we haven't got to yet.
Yeah. You guys definitely have to play the captain contest today on DraftKings. I'm playing it, and I'm actually playing that a little bit more than the main slate.
Best underdog under 7,400. Is it Deron Win?
Tim Means, Deron Win, Natalia Silva, Maria Oliveira, Danny Chavez, Tony Kelly, Eddie Wineland. I think it's Danny Chavez. But like Chavez Means Win are all very similar.
Demetrius asked about what randomness you recommend. I typically go 20% randomness on MMA.
Okay. I don't screw around with randomness unless I have no idea what the hell's going on.
It also depends on the type of contest you're playing, how many entries too. That goes into it as well.
Yes. So if I'm doing 150, that's when I want to get a little different. Make sure that I am not I'm not keeping all my lineups the same.
Yeah, Alex has talked about this and the fact of, just not playing it yourself in terms of, how similar your lineups are. And so for MMA, I mean, look, I know we're the MMA guys here. I believe MMA is one of the harder DFS.
It is, in my opinion, and bias aside, it's extremely difficult because you got to get 6 for 6, and you're predicting one of the most unpredictable sports out there. Like stats don't mean nothing. Cody in the chat asking, who do I like for captain on DraftKings? And my answer is going to be captain is Jasmine Jasuda Vicious. I made a large group of lineups with her in the captain spot, and I like her quite a bit.
By the way, be sure to check out our Best Bets Discord, as now is the best time to check out our Best Bets package. Click the link below to subscribe to a team of experts that use Stokastic's industry-leading projection models to identify the best bets available in MLB and so much more. We are confident in this bets that will be worth the price of admission. So click the link below to start betting today. If you want a free preview on our Best Bets, be sure to follow us at Stokastic Best Bets on Twitter. Turn those notifications on as we posted one free bet every day. Of course, I come here momentarily will be MLB Live Before Lock to get you ready here for today's MLB slate here. Of course, be sure to check out everything we have over here over at stokastic.com as we have rebranded. All the same tools that you've known to love here are here every single day. Pete, something you want to mention before we get out of here, before we turn things over to MLB guys?
Yeah, I kind of just want to mention one fighter in the 9,000 range that we're not convinced she's going to get a finish, but I don't believe in her opponent. Gloria DePaula at 9,200. It's just a sneaky play. I like her a lot more than I like Ricardo Ramos. So she hasn't shown she can score 100 points yet within the UFC. But, I mean, if matchups are anything, this is a favorable matchup for Gloria DePaula and a fighter we really didn't touch on too much.
Of course, code up next is MLB Live Before Lock. Guys, we'll be breaking down today's MLB slate. Of course, we got 1 hour till the UFC does lock, so appreciate everyone tuning in today for the MMA Live Before Lock show. Of course, we'll be back here next week on Thursday for the strategy show. Love to see those winning lineups after the fights are over, so hope everyone has a great day, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good day, everybody.